Hey students, welcome to your second analysis practice. Let's check out what it is you need to do for it. So at this point, you've selected which of our three primary symbols you're going to focus on for the novel, either water, trees, or hair. And you've conducted kind of preliminary research on different artifacts to come up with a hypothesis about what your symbol focus might mean. And so now you're going to start looking at the text and using that text to figure out what Zora Neale Hurston's meaning is behind the use of the symbol. So now that you have a preliminary understanding of what your symbol might mean, you will track the symbol's development throughout the book. You will consider what each individual use of the symbol means and what the symbol means overall. So to do this first, you're going to go to the page on which the quote originated. I'm going to give you some quotes, and you're going to read the page. You're going to record the context of the quote in your document, which essentially means you're going to just say what's happening when the quote that I give you occurs in the book. Then you're going to consider the use of the symbol in the quote, and you're going to create and record a 1 to 2 word meaning for the symbol in your document. And then lastly, you're going to write out your reasoning for why you believe the symbol represents this meaning. Okay, so let's actually go to the document, or actually I have an image right here that shows an example, so you can look at this first. So here is the quote that's been provided, and it comes from page 9. So what you would do is, this was the quote that you were working with, you would go to page 9 of the novel and refresh your memory as to what's happening. You actually might not need to do this. You might read the quote and go, I remember exactly what was happening in this quote. And then you're going to write the context, just explain what was happening in this scene, give some background information. Then, after you give the context, you're going to assign a definition to the symbol. So here the hair symbol is being used, and so the student defined the symbol as meaning assigned identity. Okay, so not, and remember, what does assigned identity mean? Assigned identity would be an identity someone else gives you. So they would say, this is your identity, I assign it to you. So it's not a self-chosen or ascribed, that's what we would call it. It's not an ascribed identity where you choose it for yourself, it's an assigned identity. And so, explanation of the definition. Let's take a look at this just to kind of see what my expectations are for your answer. So when Janie looks at the picture of herself and the other children, her hair is one of the characteristics that helps her realize who in the picture is actually her. So here this gives a little bit of context. Therefore, Janie's hair, which is described as thick, long, and black, is an identifiable characteristic for her. Arguably, since her hair is so rare, it is a characteristic that makes her feel special as an adult. However, in this scene, her hair results in disappointment because she realizes that it is different from the hair of the other children. Janie wants to fit in with her peers who, until this very moment, she saw herself as completely equal to. Janie's response of, I'm colored, shows prejudices of the time, late 1930s, against African American and Black Americans because Janie seems disappointed to learn of her own race. Therefore, she has adopted these prejudices, not realizing that she was holding the prejudices against herself. As a result, the use of the symbol hair in this scene represents ascribed identity. Oops, I forgot that. I guess ascribed and assigned means the same thing. Maybe someone can look that up for me. I might have been wrong before. Represents ascribed identity, which is an identity one is given rather than an identity one chooses for oneself. And so here we have, ultimately, a really good analysis that kind of takes us through the scene, points out what's important, and uses the scene to argue why the definition of hair, as for the symbolic use in this scene, is assigned identity. And it's very convincing. So you essentially want to write an argument in which you convince me, your audience, that what you've decided as your definition is true. Okay? And so let's actually go look at the document you'll be completing. And so you'll see that there's written directions so that you can refresh your memory. It needs to go away. And then there's also step-by-step directions to help you out. And so again, here we have the 3 different trackers, and there's 3 of them because you've chosen the symbol you'd like to do. And so say I've chosen the water symbol, I would open up the tracker, and I'd make my own copy of this and paste that copy into here. Alternatively, I guess I could just move the whole thing over. If that's what you want to do, you can just copy and paste it into this box. But ultimately, you would then complete the boxes for the quotes provided to you as you come upon them in the reading. So you're not expected, this is very important, you are not expected to do all of this today. Do not do all of this today. That wouldn't make sense. You haven't even read some of the parts of the book that this is asking about. Essentially what you want to do is you want to refer back to this, and I have times assigned in the calendar for you to refer back to this. But I'd like for you to, when you're done reading chapter 1 and it's fresh in your memory, you would come and fill out these 2 boxes for chapter 1 and explain the symbolic meaning. When you're done with chapter 2, you would do that for this table, chapter 4 for this table, another chapter 4. And you'll notice that after chapter 4, there's no more for you to complete. And that's because we'll be starting our next round of analysis practices, but you're still going to want to note moments in the book when your symbol occurs. So I only have you completing the trackers for about like the first third of the novel, and then you should be able to notice on your own when the symbol occurs. And this is going to be important for the final practice that you do, because you're going to have to identify moments later in the book where your symbol occurs and actually write on that. And I won't have given you the quotes. So kind of think of it this way. I've given you quotes for the beginning of the novel to help you track the development of the symbol. And then once you finish this tracker, that doesn't mean you stop tracking it. It just means you do it more autonomously. So you might put post-it notes in your book. You might actually highlight or underline. I'm sure anyone who has the book after you would be super grateful if you did that. So it's the idea that you will track it on your own afterwards. And we'll talk about this, of course, in the calendar and also when we meet in class. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So that is what you're doing for your round 2 analysis. If you have any questions about it, please let me know and I will be sure to help you out. All right, good luck.